The internationally acclaimed cinematographers Don McAlpine and Denis Lenoir were invited to the Australian Film, Television and Radio School to conduct a masterclass workshop in studio lighting. Don McAlpine began his distinguished career working on news, documentary and drama productions in the early 60s. Don went on to shoot some classic Australian features, such as Breaker Morant and My Brilliant Career, before turning his attention to Hollywood in the early 80s. He has since shot a host of US features, including Predator, Medicine Man and Patriot Games. Paris-born Denis Lenoir is a leading figure in the new generation of French cinematographers. His work on films as diverse as Monsieur Hire, Daddy Nostalgie and more recently the Australian feature Dingo has established Denis' reputation as an imaginative and effective cinematographer. The double workshop was designed to give students a unique opportunity to compare the work methods of two of the world's leading DOPs. Don and Denis each spent 3 days in separate workshops with the students, and each lit the same set and actors for the same director. This allowed students to concentrate on the two individual approaches to lighting and coverage. Joseph Demian, the head of the cinematography department at the film school, had a script. He directed the actors and nominated 4 shots to cover the action.
First thing we want to do is build up the walls a little bit. I approach this as a lighting workshop, not a directorial workshop. It's being a bit simplistic to say that, but in truth, that's why I was here. Basically, to try to get the students to analyse the elements of the lighting within the scene. I think the concept was not to make it a period piece, to make it have a contemporary feel set in the 20s. In other words, not to go back and create a period feel. My brief was to explain the room as well. That's why we stuck to, I think basically 35 we almost used on every shot except a couple of close-ups.
I have much more freedom about, I think, the lighting, because I proposed the day before Joseph to turn off the light at one point of the script, and he said, oh yes, it would be a good idea. So of course it was more freedom. And also I asked him if I had to show the geography of the room, and he told me no, there's supposed to be something before, so the audience already knows it. If you can rise the room, yes, a little.
The set consisted of a dining room with a raised bay window, double French doors, and a doorway opening to a corridor that opens back into the main room near the stairs. The action is covered in 4 shots. The first begins at the table, where the 4 actors commence their hide-and-seek game. Then 2 exit through the doorway and cross the corridor, while the blindfolded actor finally traps the remaining actress at the bay window.
One real advantage of this shot is, in actual fact, it's a film cut included in a move. You have one scene cut to a 2-shot other scene. It's a very quick transition from that information shot into the drama of the story. So you get a lot of advantages. You get nice distortion on the people, you'll cover the table using a wide-angle lens, you'll have a minimum move, and when they move away from you particularly, you'll have quite a wide scene establishing shot of the room. So we'd start with the Elamac up here, and we'd be looking down, which wouldn't be a bad shot of the table. And when we pull back, we wouldn't be a bad height for the principals. Yeah. All that has to go is this, and I think that's secured by, I can see one screw there, so it's not a major set destruction. You can see what we've done so far. We've ripped this apart. We've given ourselves room to work, and I think that's one mistake we all make very early in our career. Give yourself room to do good work. Don't for the sake of 10 minutes moving stuff around, get yourself trapped in a corner. Next thing, we've set the dolly up here so we can look down on the table with a 25mm and then track back and see the 2-shot. The only problem is, with this gear, even though we've got the low-angle Romford, is that we're starting to get just marginally high, but we're right on the edge of where we should be for the actor's eye line. We're just a little above their eyes. These are the things you've really got to think about, because when you start using things like dollies and grips and all the rest of it, if you can really rationally go through where you're going and learn to start using tape measures and know that your gear will give you, this will be your minimum lens height, and you go back and you really work it out before you start wasting a lot of people's time and effort, because to get all this in and then find it doesn't work is a real waste of everyone's time and energy. Okay, you ready to go?
Yes. And if you check the videos,
The actors are brought on set to block through the action. A video split enables the group to watch the framing and see exactly what action they are to light. With the framing set, Don then turns his attention to the practical lights.
Around about here, we get 1/4 of light off these. The first thing we can do is play with these and take them up to about I've got to be careful, 270. 270? Yeah. And just watch what happens when you apply 270 to these. Okay. Now 260, 270. Now they run. Sometimes they explode, but not very often. And that's now got that up to about 2.
That's max for the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
What, 2 there?
No, 280.
No, over here, where my hand was.
Sorry.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, right. 2.
2. What do you read back on that wall there?
It's 1.
1. We have the back of the set lit more strongly than the foreground. Convention says that you keep the background down a stop. I think a convention's not a good thing to go by in that regard. In this instant, you'll find that with all that detail back there and the perspective we're getting and the way it's fallen, it'll be rather nice to have that brighter in the background. And this is what I love to do with lighting, is do what we've done and bring in the practicals the way the room would roughly be, and then look at it and say, now, is this working for me or is this working against me? And most times it works for you, because it can give you the clue on how the scene should look realistically. It so happens that when you come over the table and come back up here, a few things happen. You end up on this side of it. So we're immediately presented with the possibility of, on the foreground people, of introducing a pretty strong side source here that they'll believe. You could use a small soft light, which would be out of frame here, and bring that in to key them. The next thing is, of course, we do have to get some base fill here, and we're going to have to put some rather diffuse source here. They're the basic simplistic elements that I see within the scene. Now, we've got to build up the whole ambience in this room, I'd say about a stop, but we want it to be non-source light. So, to get this plan underway, we're going to have to produce some sort of a bounce from here to go back into that area. Probably a 4x4 on a C-stand up there, and just to keep the floor clear for the actors, bring a spot from over there onto this. All right? Now that will then light that area, and she won't throw a shadow particularly. And the fact that she'll warm up around here doesn't matter, because by then we're over into here, right? The other thing is whether, if we get back here on a small soft light with a grid on it, we got a 1K soft, that will be just the basic start of the lighting, right? That's not the, then I've got to look at it and dress it from there.
The first step Don took was to increase the voltage of the practical lamp above the table from 240 to 270 volts. This raised the output of the 2 photo crescendo bulbs from f1.4 to f2. He reduced the flare from the lamps by applying carbon with a candle. Then, to cover the action in front of the table, Don used an Inky with a 300-watt Mizar lamp as a key, and another bounced on foam as a fill. To increase the overall ambience in the room, Don bounced a grid-mounted 1K spot from a large piece of foam. Near the stairs, he added a 1K soft light. In the next sequence, Don will fine-tune this setup, adding a soft light suspended over the table, an additional soft source from outside the set, and by adjusting colour temperature.
This one.
Even though the practicals were being run at their maximum voltage, their
29.
colour temperature was still considerably warmer than the studio lights. To achieve a more even colour balance, most of the studio lights were gelled with a 1/4 CTO.
So then everything's quite orange.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want it to be that orange, would you tend to correct that?
I can print that into a blue night scene if I wanted
Yeah,
to.
I'm just asking, where would you correct that? Would you correct it on the camera or in the lab?
Oh no, I'd always correct it in the lab.
Right.
I certainly wouldn't start putting a blue on the camera. I just lose speed here.
Yeah.
Here.
4.5.
4.5. Flood it just a little bit. What do you got there? Keep your meter in there. While the guy's on the light, you've got to keep working.
1.43.
1.43. So that's good, and that's a.
That's good, Joe.
Right. Okay.
Don, are we going to gel that light now?
Yeah, we are. Sorry, you've caught me out. Right, gel it and spot it.
We're just waiting for the gel now, Don.
Okay. What are we getting over here? This is still, we haven't solved our trouble area. Is that bounce giving us much over here?
Half 1.42.
If we let them come out here for what's the major part of the scene, they're sort of vanishing. They're not relieved. A little bit of relief from this side. I'd sneak a very, very gentle light, unexplained, in here, which will give them just a little edge down here. We're never going to see in the corner of that room, so I don't have to excuse it, right? And if we had it, it wouldn't really worry me. And the other problem still I haven't solved is what to do with this bloody table. What do you got down there? It's all building up now.
2.5.
2.5. This shadowed area here, produced by the
1.43.
143. If anything's overlit in this whole scene, I believe the table should be. And the table isn't quite yet telling the story. It doesn't look like one of the great nights, right?
Candles.
We've got the candle lights to come. That would help. The other thing we could do would be actually hang another light on either side of this. And one of the greatest things I always have is a full range of those Chinese lanterns. They're easy to rig and you can hang them on nothing. What I'd be confronted with would be bringing in 2 small soft lights with diffusion, directing them down, right? Which mechanically is quite a difficult thing, particularly in this situation, right? You could, I don't know where your edge of frame is, whether we could boom something in to get it over there and direct it down on the table, but the light should come down. What stop we got there now on that? Still looks a bit bright.
288. That's your body maybe. A bit there. Still clicking 4.
Okay. What's that now,
288.
I like the look of it, don't you?
Because this light here is being diffused as it is, and it's not boxed in around the sides, isn't that really starting to shed a lot of light out onto elsewhere and really flatten things out as far as the actors are concerned?
It is building up, right? And remember that the camera's looking this way. Okay, do it, pull it. Okay. It's building up the whole scene, there's no two ways about it. But not, it's still a back